So what is your view of Jesus? You see, one of the things that people most often miss about Jesus is that when you see him for who he really is and what he can do, the common response is often fear. For example, Jesus with his disciples out on the Sea of Galilee, and there's this raging storm and his disciples are very afraid of it. When Jesus exerts his power and authority over the wind and the waves and he calms the storm, his disciples are more afraid of what Jesus has done than they were of the storm itself. One thing is for sure is that when you see the real Jesus, who he is and what he can do, it never results in indifference. And Mark chapter 5 teases this idea out even further. So let's read and then let's investigate. Okay, let's start out by reading Mark chapter 5, verses 1 through 20. And this is coming right on the heels of Jesus calming the storm. And then we'll break the story down, okay? So they, that is Jesus and his disciples, came to the other side of the sea to the country of the Gerasenes. And when Jesus had stepped out of the boat, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit. He lived among the tombs, and no one could bind him anymore, not even with a chain, for he had often been bound with shackles and chains. But he wrenched the chains apart, and he broke the shackles in pieces. No one had the strength to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs and on the mountains, he was always crying out and cutting himself with stones. And when he saw Jesus from afar, he ran and fell down before him. And crying aloud with a loud voice, he said, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High? I adjure you by God, do not torment me." For he was saying to him, "Come out of the man, you unclean spirit." And Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" He replied, "My name is Legion, for we are many." And he begged him earnestly not to send them out of the country. Now a great herd of pigs was feeding there on the hillside, and they begged him, saying, "Send us into the pigs, let us enter them." So he gave them permission, and the unclean spirits came out and entered the pigs. And the herd, numbering about 2,000, rushed down the steep bank into the sea and drowned in the sea. The herdsmen fled and told it in the city and in the country, and people came to see what it was that had happened. And they came to Jesus and saw the demon-possessed man, the one who had the legion, sitting there, clothed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. And those who had seen it described it to them, what had happened to the demon-possessed man and to the pigs. And they began to beg Jesus to depart from their region. As he was getting into the boat, the man who had been possessed with demons begged him that he might be with him. And he did not permit him, but said to him, "Go home to your friends and tell them how much the Lord has done for you, and how he has had mercy on you." And he went away and began to proclaim in the Decapolis how much Jesus had done for him, and everyone marveled. So clearly, there's a lot going on in this story. Many interesting things about Jesus sending these demons. He's even having a conversation with demons, which is strange anyway, except this isn't the first time. Previous episodes we've talked about that. There's a lot of interesting things going on, sending those demons into pigs. I don't want to try to cover all of that, but I really just want to cover the response to Jesus, because here, three different groups of people, or three different beings, see Jesus for who he really is and what he can do. And did you notice the main theme in all three of them? The main theme is that they were all begging Jesus for different reasons, but they were all begging him because they saw him for who he is and what he can do. The demons, first of all, begged Jesus to send them. They didn't want to be in Jesus' presence. They're absolutely terrified. So if your view of Jesus is this soft and quiet and calm, like, kind of weak, pious kind of person, you're sorely mistaken, okay? Jesus is so much more than that. And the demons recognize that. They recognize his sovereignty. They know he's the Holy One of God. They know why he's here. They know what he can do to them. They are terrified of Jesus and the coming judgment. They know that that judgment is going to come. And we talked about this at length in episode 19. So if you want to talk about why demons were so afraid that Jesus was going to destroy them, go check that episode out. They, the demons, fear Jesus so much that they even use God's name to avoid torment. There's like, I adjure you by the living God, do not torment us. They know that Jesus is going to judge them. They know that they are going to experience torment. They are terrified. So the demons beg Jesus to send them away. And Jesus' response is actually reminiscent of an ancient Hebrew story of God who's bringing his people, the children of Israel, up out of slavery in Egypt and eventually into the land that he has promised on oath to bring them to. And as he's bringing them up, they are trapped by the Red Sea, and Pharaoh and his army are coming to either kill them or take them back into slavery. And yet God opens up these waters of the sea for them to walk safely through to the other side. And he brings the waves down on Pharaoh's army that was trying to kill them. And so we see the same thing kind of happening here to these demons who are asked to being sent from Jesus. And he gives them permission, and yet as they go into these pigs, the pigs rush down this steep cliff and they get drowned, kind of cast into the sea in the same way that Pharaoh and his army does. Very, very interesting. But it's all because they're afraid of him. The demons begged Jesus to send them away. The second is the town begs Jesus to leave them. When they hear about this story, they beg Jesus to go away. Now, why would they want to do that? Jesus has just rescued this man. He saved him. Like, he's clearly has a lot of power. Why would they want Jesus to leave them? Well, perhaps they're also afraid of losing their own fortunes, their own herds of pigs and other things, right? Like, I think this is an opportunity for them to see Jesus, and yet they are also afraid of what they might lose in this. If Jesus has the authority to release the man, to free the man that they couldn't bind, where is he getting that authority? Remember, Jesus has already been questioned about the authority that he drives out demons. Some have even said he's driving out demons because he himself is demonic. He has the prince of demons in him, right? What power is he doing this? And we talked about this actually in episode 26. You can go check that out. And Jesus uses logic to say, can Satan drive out Satan, right? No, he says, I am binding a strong man. Satan and his unclean spirits, they are like a strong man. I am binding them up and taking back what is mine. Either way, in the first case, we see the demons are begging Jesus to send them. In this case, the townspeople, the people who live around there, they're begging Jesus to leave them because they know if he stays, it's going to cost them, and maybe cost them financially, if not more than that. And then the third response to one who sees Jesus, who he is and what he can do, is that the man himself who was rescued, the man begged Jesus to bring him. Bring me with you. And of course he did. Can you imagine the freedom that he's experiencing? No longer among the tombs, no longer crying out at night, no longer cutting himself. Like, can you imagine the gratitude? I mean, this man has been in isolation, living among dead people, right? And now he has the ability to live among humans again, right? And Jesus has rescued him. Of course, he's begging him, please take me with you. The man now has fear of missing out on being with Jesus. So my point with all of this, okay, and this is a really cool story, and there's lots in it, and maybe there's even more here that is worth investigating. But my simple point is when you think about how you see Jesus, I want you to know that when you see Jesus for who he really is, what he can do, when you see the real Jesus and his power and his authority and his sovereignty, it never results in indifference. It only results in begging to be sent from his presence because he's just so holy, begging for him to go away because you don't want to lose what you have and you're afraid it's going to cost you something, or most appropriately, begging to go with him because in him is life and you want to be with him. You know, Jesus will judge us on our crimes, right? And in the same way that the demons are afraid that Jesus has come to judge them, there should be a healthy fear about the day of judgment, the last day, the day of the Lord, when Jesus will return and he will set all wrongs right, and all of the good things we've done will never be able to outweigh the bad things we've done. Jesus will judge us on our crimes. Jesus will also require change. When you accept his healing and forgiveness like the man did, who was now released from the power of darkness that held him, there's now a change that's required, right? And the townspeople, they didn't want to make that change. The man now was to go back to his friends and to his community and begin to spread what God has done. It's going to cost you something. And Jesus is able to forgive the man. And this is the good news, okay? This is the gospel. This is where Jesus gets the authority. This is how we can understand Jesus' authority and power to forgive our sins and free us from the power of darkness and free us from addictions and things that bind us. Is that like the man, Jesus himself was bound up. Jesus himself was cast out. Jesus himself was tormented. Jesus himself was laid in a tomb, all so that we could be brought back to life, so that we could be restored, so that we could go back into the community and praise God for that. And so I just want you to think about the real Jesus. If you're kind of indifferent to Jesus right now, or maybe you're at a point where you've been watching a few of these episodes, or someone's told you to watch some of this, or someone's just talking to you about Jesus, and you've been indifferent before and now you're starting to show some interest. I just want you to know that when you see the real Jesus, the result is actually fear. Fear of judgment, which is appropriate. Fear of what it's going to cost you to follow him, and that's also appropriate. But also the fear of missing out on all of the goodness that comes with following Jesus, and the hope and the peace, the hope of life to come, and the peace knowing that God is gonna resolve all things. All things will be made right, and he is going to extend to all of us this invitation, this welcome into a new heavens and a new earth. And man, that's something that I certainly would fear missing out on, and I hope you do too. But this goodness that's available to us, it doesn't happen because we're good. It happens because we're forgiven, right? Only those who are forgiven will get to enter in and experience the goodness of God for eternity. And I really want you to think about that. And if you want to talk any more about it, you can go to investigatejesus.com. There you can set up a free call. I'll be more than happy to have a conversation with you about how you can make an informed decision about Jesus and understand who he really is better. But until then, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and be sure to check out another one. And I'll see you in the next episode.